We are your community realtor, local realtors with local knowledge since 2003.
Welcome to Top Producers.
You want to buy a house? You want to sell a house?
We're here for you.
When you look to buy and sell real estate, it's not just a house, it's a community that you're putting yourself in. We're proud to say we know Running Springs and can't wait to show you around. We offer a full-service real estate office located in the heart of the beautiful San Bernardino Mountains. Mountaintop Producers is proud to represent the community of Running Springs. Like most things in life, what you put in is what you'll get out.
Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Ray with MountainReporter.com, and we are here in Big Bear Lake talking with Andrew Crane. Andrew, how are you today?
Good, how are you?
Awesome day. So there's a lot of stuff happening in the news about the fire stations up here on the mountain. There's a lot of things happening on social media, and what we wanted to do is we wanted to come sit down and talk with you and get some things straight. Just get it right there from the Big Bear Professional Firefighters Association, and that name is different than the Big Bear Fire Authority. What's the difference between the two?
The difference is Big Bear Fire Department obviously is an organization that provides a service to the community.
Okay.
The firefighters, engineers, and captains are part of an association or the union, and we raise funds separate from the fire department to give back to the community. So we do fundraisers on our own time, and we donate to soccer teams, baseball teams, softball teams. We've donated to the high school mountain biking team, and we give back to the community, the Kmart shopping spree for the children. Okay. That's all part of the association. So we all work for the fire department, but we're a collective group that do fundraisers to benefit the community.
That's fantastic. And so the actual association has nothing to do with fighting fires and staffing equipment other than the fact that they are just the guys that are, or girls that are working the equipment, and then on their free time they're doing things for the community.
That's correct.
Okay, and so you're the president of that association?
I am.
How long have you been the president?
3 months.
Well, okay, it looks like you got something dropped in your lap that you weren't ready for.
Right?
All right, so we got a couple of questions for the community. What we did is we did basically a poll of the community for last week, having them ask their questions that they wanted to hear the answers to. We'll get started with that real quick, and we'll get straight into it. Will closing Station 283 cause harm to the citizens of Sugarloaf, Irwin Lake, and Lake Williams? So basically, how will this closure affect the communities?
So the quick answer to that is yes. By closing Station 283 in Sugarloaf will impact all the residents and visitors of the Sugarloaf, Irwin Lake, and Lake Williams area due to the fact that that station won't be manned, and so the response time is going to have to come from Big Bear City. So there's going to be about a 5-minute increase to the response time to all those communities, as well as the valley as a whole. Right, so right now we're running concurrent call volumes about 30% of the time, where we're running multiple calls at the same time. Okay. So if that is taking place and a call comes out in Sugarloaf, Lake Williams, or Irwin Lake, it might be a unit coming from Big Bear Lake, which now puts the whole valley at risk. So it will cause harm in the fact that our response times are going to be increased. We're already running level 0 where we have no available units. That's going to increase due to that staffing being eliminated.
Okay, and so not only does that station cover those communities, it also runs down to Highway 38 at times, Onyx Summit and beyond? It
does. So our response area is about 250 square miles, including San Gorgonio Wilderness, Holcomb Valley.
Just for that one station?
For the whole valley.
Okay.
So Big Bear Fire as a whole. We run all the way down to mile marker 22 in Angeles Oaks off the 38.
So Andrew, I've seen it in dispatches, because you know that we follow the activities of the fire department on incidents, and you also just mentioned again, you said a word, level 0. What does that mean?
So level 0 is when every unit that is with Big Bear Fire Department, we have 1 truck, 2 engines, and 3 ambulances. When they're all assigned to incidents, that's when a level 0 occurs, meaning that if you were to call 911, nobody's showing up at your house until a unit can become available.
In the wintertime, I know that the ski resorts have a lot of fall victims, traumatic injuries, and you guys spend a lot of time there. How will this closure affect those communities even more if the Big Bear City Station has responded to one incident at the ski resort, say, and Big Bear Lake's working an accident in the Arctic Circle? What does that do for everybody east of the Big Bear Valley?
It puts them in danger or in harm's way because our response times are going to be even elongated, right? So the wintertime and the ski resorts and their impact, in the wintertime we actually upstaff our units, right? So we increase our staffing during the winter because we know the demand is there. And so if this station closes, there's a good chance that the wintertime we're still going to upstaff. It might not be to the level we are right now, but we're going to do everything we can to make sure that we provide that service.
So let's talk about summertime then, because I don't want people to think, well, it's summer, we're good. Because we know that we have a fire season. It's all year round up here, but in the summertime it gets exponential as far as the danger. You also have something in the summer that we don't have in the wintertime, which is boating out on the lake. So you've got water rescues, you've got boating accidents, you've got slip and falls at the marinas, then you have a fire danger all the way around. So this danger, this harm's way that the community could be put in is not diminished in the summertime any more than it is the winter. Is that correct?
That is correct. So Big Bear is very unique in how we staff units, right? The Sugarloaf fire engine has 2 people on it. Ambulances have 2 people on it. Most places that have ambulance services, they just strictly run medical aids. Our ambulances are cross-staffed as firefighters as well. So in the summertime when a wildland fire goes out, we downstaff an engine and an ambulance so we can have a brush engine. So with closing Sugarloaf down, we're not going to be able to staff those brush units, water tender, brush engine, to go fight those fires, the wildland fires. Therefore, we're going to have to wait for our reinforcements coming from the valley, Yucaipa, or down from Lucerne Valley until we can adequately fight that fire. So it is going to put a strain on that wildland aspect of it.
All right, let's get back to the questions, because I could go all day with you with this, just wandering through all the impacts of what will happen if the station closes. But another question from the community: why do we send a fire engine to medical aids? Isn't that a waste of resources and money?
So that is a good question. I could see how that is perceived from the public, is why are we sending this big unit down the street? So our engines, or the fire truck, are all they're staffed as well with paramedics, right? So we have paramedic engines, paramedic trucks, and the ambulance. So if I were to just walk you through a normal medical aid, we have 2 people on an ambulance, 2 people on an engine, right? So someone, ALS provider starting IVs, we need someone doing vital signs, we have patient movement, right? So we live in the mountains. So depending on the season, we can have snow, right? So we have someone outside shoveling the snow so that we could bring that patient out safely. Depending on if they have staircases, how heavy the patient is. We know we have
stairs in the mountains.
Right? So everything has to do with our safety, one, so that we have checks and balances to make sure that we're providing the best service to that customer or to our citizen, and our personal safety so that we don't throw out our back or blow out a knee trying to take a patient down ice-ridden stairs, right? So the other thing too is those people are there, right? We have that staffing every day. If the call does not need that fire engine, we'll cancel them. So a typical ski call, if it's a broken wrist at the ski resort, the ambulance goes code 3, lights and sirens. The truck or the engine coming in, they go code 2. So they just, all the traffic lights they stop at. If that ambulance gets on scene and they can handle it, they'll cancel that truck.
Oh, okay.
But it's better to have them coming if you need them versus having to request them after the fact.
Gotcha.
So.
All right, well, the next question from the community: do we still pay a CAL FIRE tax, and do we get any of that money? I'm not sure what context they're talking about. But
so that is a hot topic, and I get those questions all the time in the public. Is don't we pay that CAL FIRE tax? It's a parcel tax or some type of assessment tax that CAL FIRE did a while ago. So in July of 2017, they actually stopped paying that. They went to court. They did all this stuff. They stopped that tax. So you no longer pay that CAL FIRE tax. It was like $130, $135. We no longer pay that.
So that happened in July 2017, but maybe the word didn't get out to the community.
It didn't. No. So I hear it all the time. We still pay the CAL FIRE tax. The other thing too that a lot of people didn't understand is we didn't get any of that money. That money went straight to CAL FIRE, and the local government or the local fire departments never saw any of that money. But as of right now, July 2017, we no longer pay that. It won't be revisited until sometime in 2030 plus.
Okay, cool. Next question from the community is this: if CAL FIRE took over, wouldn't that save money?
That is a great question. We hear that a lot. Big Bear is very dynamic in how we operate as a fire department. You know, like I said earlier, we have ambulances that have firefighters on it. We, right now, if we were to get rid of our ambulance service, we wouldn't have enough firefighters on a day to put out a fire. Structure fire, wildland fire.
Is that because what you said earlier, where the ambulance staff are also cross-trained as firefighters?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so if we were to eliminate the ambulances, we would have 7 people on a day. And that's not enough to put out a structure fire. So we have the ability to have cross-staffing, right? The ambulances and firefighters. Well, CAL FIRE, if they were to come into our community, they don't provide an ambulance service. They don't run ambulances like we do. So if CAL FIRE were to come in to just do fire protection, they would need just as many people as us, 13 a day, to provide the fire service. Well, they don't provide ambulance services, so now we'd have to contract with an ambulance provider
like
to come
AMR
up here.
or somebody like
AMR. That. And the thing with that is AMR, they'd have to bring up infrastructure, put up a station, some type of maintenance facility, 4-wheel drive units, you know, so there's a bigger picture to that. We're able to do both. We're able to do an ambulance service and provide that fire protection with a limited amount of people. So that CAL FIRE thing, it might look good, but understand that they don't provide that ambulance service.
Sounds like it has a domino effect that kind of kicks in some other things into the big picture that you don't see necessarily if you're just focused on the small CAL FIRE issue.
Yes.
Cool. Next question from the community is, what about county fire?
So county fire, same thing. Some of the questions that I've heard is about administration, right? You know, too many chiefs, not enough Indians. If we were to go to CAL FIRE, would those chiefs be eliminated?
And that's county fire.
Yeah, or county fire.
Okay.
Would that eliminate that overhead cost of administration? And so I know there is, when they merge or when that entity comes in, there's an administrative fee that is put on top. And that's to cover administration, HR, payroll, and the chiefs that those county fire has. The other thing with county fire is when they come in here, they have a $157 parcel tax.
Oh, that's right.
That they put on.
Is that the FP5?
It has to do with the FP5. I know that just passed, but they don't take that to the vote, right? So when they come in, they redistrict, and that's just imposed on the citizen, right? So there is a cost. County fire. The reality is firefighters cost the same, right? If you're a firefighter, county fire, or if you're a firefighter here, we all cost the same. And it's how do we get through that, right? So administrative fees going to cost the same if you go county, CAL FIRE, or Big Bear, right? But county has that assessment fee. They do provide an ambulance service. CAL FIRE does not provide that ambulance service. So there's cost regardless of which way you go.
All right. Let's see here. Insurance reimbursement. Oh, okay. So I think this is if somebody has a medical aid call, and obviously it incurs a cost by the responding units. Doesn't that person's medical insurance cover that cost? Are they assessed for that? How does that work?
Yeah, so our ambulance service is a special entity, right? So we have the Big Bear Fire Department, and then we have the ambulance company, which generates revenue. So when we respond, we actually do get reimbursement from insurance companies. Some insurance companies pay a lot, some of them don't pay much, but 1/3 of our revenue our budget comes from ambulance reimbursement. So there is a benefit that 1, we get reimbursement for having ambulances. 2, we can utilize those personnel as paramedics, ALS providers, transport, and as firefighters.
Okay. Another question on that topic. House fire happens.
Yes.
You have a structure fire response, and they've got homeowners insurance. Are they ever assessed for that firefighting of the structure protection?
I don't, as far as the fire department assessing that, I don't believe they are. Okay. And I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure any fire-related incident, the insurance company is going to provide that revenue to that house to be rebuilt, but the fire department doesn't get any money from that.
Okay.
So we provide that service usually for free.
All right. Let's see here. We're about halfway through here. The next one is, if this passes, how do we know the money won't go to the general fund?
So with the tax measure that we're talking about, by creating a CFD, so a community facilities district, that's the tax that we're talking about, the fire department itself would become a tax collecting entity, right? So right now we get pass-through funds. So our budget, property tax. You pay your property tax. It goes to the city, Big Bear Lake, which is corporated. We get 15% of your property tax, and that's pass-through funds from the city. CSD side is county, unincorporated. We get pass-through funds of 7.5% through that. So if we were to pass this CFD, the fire department itself would become a tax collecting entity, and all that revenue would go straight to the fire department with no other hands in the cookie jar.
So not to the general fund.
Not to the general fund, straight to
Okay.
the fire department.
Next one. This is a hot topic, I'm sure. Does the ski resort pay their fair share?
So right now they don't, in a way. Like we don't generate revenue from the ski resort to our operation. In the CFD model, the tax that we're going for, the ski resort or recreational activity entities would pay their fair share. So we went out to the public, we looked at a parcel tax strictly on the residents. They came back and said, we're about the fire department, but we feel that the visitor should pay their fair share. So we looked at it, and the ski resorts or recreation, we would actually be getting revenue from those sources. So in the future, if this measure passes, the ski resorts will be paying their fair share.
What is the CFD and how does it work?
So, like I've talked about a little bit, is the CFD, Communities Facilities District. It is a tax collecting entity, or a method of collecting taxes. The good thing about that is there's a lot of flexibility with it, right? So it's not just a parcel tax, and if you have a 1,000 square foot house or if you have a 5,000 square foot house, you pay the same price. There's ways that we can navigate through that to benefit some. Mobile home parks, we can assess those at a less value. And so there's more movement to it. We can do the ski resort if that's what they choose to do. They can do hotels, motels, they could do restaurants, they could do Stater Brothers, big box stores, small mom and pop stores, and they can value them differently, right? So everybody feels that it's not just a blanket cost. And so that's what the CFD is. It's the ability to tax differently for different use, which is good, right? And it's a benefit. And if we do go to the CFD, there's exemptions for low income or fixed income. A lot of people are concerned that are on Social Security that have the same paycheck every month that they might not be able to pay that tax. There's ways that we can go around and have an exemption for those people.
So this is a parcel tax?
So it started with a parcel tax, and now it's into a CFD, and a part of that CFD can be a parcel tax, right? So there's a single family resident, there's a vacant lot, there's a mobile home, there's a condo, multifamily, and so it's not strictly a parcel tax, but there's a portion of it that can tax parcels.
Because I know there's a question that will come up from the people who have a home, a single family dwelling on a parcel, and then they have two other parcels next to it that are vacant lots. They don't want to get hit 3 times on this tax because they have 3 parcels.
Yeah.
And with the FP5 tax, they would have to merge those parcels through the assessor's office in order to not get multiply dinged. How does it work with the CFD?
So the CFD, I believe right now they're looking at a single family residence developed property is X amount, and then a vacant lot would be, you know, half of that value. And so they will be hit multiple times, but it's not going to be the same price.
If they were to merge those lots together, would that change that?
I haven't come up to that question yet, but I would imagine if they merged the land together and it was just one developed land, that it's just going to be
Yeah, if
one
they
price.
combine the parcels with the FP5 tax, then it does become...
Yeah, so I would think it would be about the same with the CFD.
Okay, almost done. Volunteer and paid call to save money. I'm not kind of sure what they mean there. Is there? Oh, okay, I've heard of this. Can they start a volunteer fire company in Sugarloaf to
save money?
Is that Arrowbear? Arrowbear has a volunteer.
Arrowbear is a volunteer fire department.
So if they
or
had
a
a
paid
volunteer,
call.
yeah, if they had that type of deal in Sugarloaf, how would that work? I mean,
so we do have a paid call program up here. I actually started as a paid call 12 years ago. The problem that we're running into is the Big Bear City Fire Department. They were paid call up until like the late 80s, right? And that's what they did. The call volume dictates that, right? So if you have a construction job, the pager goes off, you go to the station. Well, our call volume has increased drastically over the last 10 plus years to where we're running an average of 13, 14 calls a day. So that paid call program isn't as effective anymore, right? So we still have it. We have 3 paid calls right now on our roster. We have constantly gone out with the application for paid call, and over the last 3 years, we've had 3 people interested. The reason for that is the fire service has changed, right? So 20 years ago, you could teach someone how to hold a fire hose, go put out a fire, right? So now we are so involved in the emergency medical services that it's hard to get someone to volunteer that has that kind of level of experience, right? So I'm a paramedic. I'm a licensed practitioner in the state of California. I am personally liable for all my mistakes on calls, right? I've gone to school for 4 years, and probably 2 or 3 of that is all emergency medical services, and I'm not even done. So to get someone at that level to volunteer, it's pretty hard. So, and to recert to be a paramedic, you know, is a process. I'm trained in fire suppression. I'm trained in rescue, trench rescue, hazmat, confined space, and paramedicine. And so the technology is changing, the experience and the knowledge is changing. There is a way to get volunteers if people are willing to do it. It's the service that you're going to get is going to be a little bit different, right? So the fire service as a whole is going away from that, just based off the technicality or the technical work of what we do.
All right. Let's see here. Very general question. Has the fire department taken any steps to save money?
Yeah, so we get that a lot. A lot of people come at us and it's like, what have you done to save the money because of the position that we're in? So we have. In 2012, Big Bear City, Big Bear Lake became one fire department, right? The Big Bear Fire Authority. That merge has saved us about $1 million just in admin fees, right? So we used to have a chief at Big Bear City, used to have a fire chief at Big Bear Lake. They had all their admin, they had HR and payroll. We've merged, and that merge right there has saved us about $1 million in the budget. And that's still not enough.
Is that
right?
every year?
That's every year, yeah. So the other thing too is the union, we negotiate collective bargaining, and we have bargained responsibly to where we're not shooting for the moon, right? We compare against 12 different cities that surround us, and we're at the bottom as far as wages, benefits, and all that stuff. And so we've been trying to do it responsibly because we know that we have a shortage of funds, you know. So combining the agencies and that responsible bargaining is what we've done, and that's still not enough. We're getting to a point, the tipping point, where no matter what we do, it's not enough, and they want to close a fire station down, and that's not the answer. So.
Copy that. You kind of spoke to this already, so if you just want to touch on it real quick, they're asking, are all firefighters paramedics?
So the majority of them are. The reason behind that is the firefighter. If you're a firefighter or a firefighter paramedic, you get paid the same amount of money, right?
Okay.
To be the paramedic, we get a stipend. It's $9,000 a year. So the cost to have a paramedic is not that much. But the benefit to the community is huge, right? The more paramedics we can have on scene, the faster we can care for you, the better the outcome is, right?
So literally, we just had an hour and a half ago an accident on the 330 that had 5 patients in a Toyota Corolla and 3 more patients in another vehicle, an SUV that crashed. There was 8 victims. 2 of them were immediate. 2 were immediate. 6 were delayed. So, is that a situation where everybody who's a paramedic can grab somebody and start working on them?
Yeah, correct. So the other thing too is I work in Sugarloaf. That's the engine that I work on. Is our closest ambulance could be at the hospital dropping off another patient, and so that first in engine has paramedics on it, so we can start that ALS care. If we show up on a multi-vehicle collision, we can send multiple paramedics to different cars to do assessments and triage, right? So we have the ability to do the advanced care, and the faster we do that, the better the outcome. And so in a small town like this, and as dynamic as we are and how spread out we get, the more paramedics, for the little impact to the budget, the better the citizen is. The outcome.
Let's see here. This is a very specific question. It almost seems like a slightly volatile one, but I'll go ahead and ask it anyways because it comes from the community. They say, how do we plan on saving money if they're not going to drop any employees?
So that is true. The board decided to move forward with a budget that was neutral and to close the station. And the chief said, we're not going to cut any employees. So right now we have 13 on a day. The proposal is to go down to 11. And how we do that is, one, we have some retirements coming up, so we just wouldn't hire people in their place. We have a couple vacancies that we just won't fill. The other way is when someone takes a day off on vacation, we just don't backfill them, right? So minimum staffing, a lot of people don't understand what that is every day we have to have a minimum of 13 people on a day. That's our minimum. So when someone takes a day off, we backfill it with someone on overtime. Now sometimes that overtime is in the fashion or form of you're being force hired. They will call you and say you're coming to work because there's nobody else, and that vacancy has to be filled. If we run it down, a vacancy on an ambulance, do you just down an ambulance or do you backfill it so that we have that adequate staffing? So with the model of reducing cost, we're going to a model that if we close station 283 and someone takes a day off, we're not going to backfill them, and that would save money in the overtime budget.
It sounds like if that happens, that ambulance is just parked while things are happening around town that could possibly need that ambulance for life-saving.
Yeah, and that's the impact of reducing our minimum staffing. If we reduce to 11, that's going to be an impact to the whole valley, right? We provide an ambulance service and we do transports down the hill. If we have an ambulance on a transport, we only have 9 left, and we have a structure fire, and there's no other calls going, that structure fire might not go as well as it would today, just based off of personnel.
Where does the fire department get their revenue from currently?
So our revenue, like I talked about earlier a little bit, is we get our revenue from ambulance reimbursement, which is about 1/3 of our revenue source is from ambulance reimbursement. The other comes from your property tax. And like I explained, CSD, we only get 7.5% of your 1% property tax. Big Bear Lake, we get 15, and that's because corporated versus unincorporated. County takes a little bit, and the pass-through comes through, right? So our only revenue comes from property tax and ambulance billing.
Okay, and for the last question, the community wants to know what they can do to save Station 283.
So the biggest thing is educate yourself. If you see us in town, ask us questions. Try to understand what we've done so far, where we want to go in the future. And the biggest thing is Wednesday, coming up, 4:30 at Station 281 in Big Bear Lake. There will be a budget workshop. The board will be there, same with the fire chief. And we need to voice our concern, right? We need to let the board know that we don't want that fire station to close. We understand why they're doing it, right? They don't want to spend money that they don't have or coming out of the savings account. But we want that station open because of the community impact, right? And so how do we get through that? Well, we got to support the community, and we also have to let the board know where we stand, and that might push them to get this tax to pass, and then we won't have to worry about it. But the biggest thing, Wednesday, 4:30, Station 281.
And where's Station 281 at?
41090 Big Bear Boulevard. It's next to Old Country Inn in Big Bear Lake.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And yeah, so if you guys are looking for more information on this, you can check. I know that there's social media posts that are going out about the meeting to make sure that if there's a Facebook event you can check into. Also, if you have questions, like he said, find a firefighter and just ask them the questions. And if you don't get the answers that you're looking for, attend the meeting. There's going to be board members there. It's a workshop. There's going to be lots of people there that can answer your questions. And this is Ray with MountainReporter.com here in Big Bear Lake, California. And we'll talk to you later.